In the heart of the Solace Ring, as mourners gather to honor a fallen ambassador, a shadow ripped across the sky. A dragon descended, its wings darkening the cathedral plaza, its roar shaking stone and soul alike. But just as ancient vows, debts, and rival claims threatened to ignite war among 17 species, a sound no one expected broke the silence. A knock from inside the coffin. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The prayer book slipped from Chaplain Mikel Arden's hands and thumped against the marble floor. The soft echo carried across the cathedral plaza like a warning. He stood beside the bronze coffin, breathing slowly, trying to hold the ceremony together. This was neutral ground, the Solace Ring, a halo-shaped city between worlds. 17 species had come to honor Ambassador Jonas Meridian. Peace depended on this day. Everything depended on quiet, order, and the right words spoken at the right time. Above the plaza, morning haze drifted around Gothic spires and listening antennas. The air was cool. Lights from ships blinked beyond the station windows. Rows of mourners sat in gray-covered chairs, chosen so no culture would be offended. Bioluminescent flowers glowed along the aisles, steady and calm, like tiny lighthouses promising safety. The scene looked perfect. Like a careful painting of respect, General Rhea Colden watched from the third row. Years of command had taught her the value of stillness. She was ready to manage a crisis without a shout. At her hip rested a ceremonial blade etched in scripts from many worlds, a symbol of duty more than a weapon. Beside her, Arbiter Leora Gray held a slim legal slate. She was the station's chief voice on law, a quiet force who could untangle knots with clear words. Medic Nadi Kamar stood near the rail with a scanner, face set and tired. She had signed the death certificate. She believed the readings, yet grief pressed against her certainty like a tide. Chaplain Michael swept his hand over the coffin lid. He thought of the ambassador's kindness, his long work to keep the Accords alive, his small habit of carrying sweets for visiting children. The chaplain had set 312 chairs before dawn, adjusted the flowers, checked the music, and walked the aisle in silent prayer. He asked for patience. He asked for mercy. He asked for a gentle mourning. The sky above the plaza darkened without warning. Wind punched across the marble, flipping programs and sending the light flowers into faint tremble. A shadow spread wider than the plaza itself. Wings, vast, layered, and strong. A dragon descended through the haze. It did not crash. It landed with a deep, careful grace, as if the marble itself had a heartbeat the dragon respected. Claws touched stone with firm clicks. Coils of warm mist rose from its nostrils and rolled across the aisle like low fog. The creature's scales were dark as wet glass and drank the light. The wing membranes carried a faint copper shine, as if hammered by a patient metalworker. When it folded those wings, the plaza felt smaller, close, and serious. No one screamed. Fear arrived in a more practical form: silence. General Rhea showed her open hand. "No one moves," she said, voice level, easy to follow. The command was not loud, but it carried authority, and the crowd obeyed. The tidefarers in their rolling brine suits steadied their tanks. The prismatic wardens from the glass belts shifted, their bodies refracting the day into rainbows. The hive chorus, wrapped in hexed silk, held still, antennae lowered. The dragon lowered its head. Eyes like deep gold studied the coffin, then the chaplain, then the gathered faces. When the creature spoke, the sound threaded through the plaza with the calm of a bell. "I am Kadris Emberfell of the Burning Keeps," it said. "The one within the brass is bound to Arphio by blood and vow. The law of mountain and flame calls him home." Chaplain Michael felt his mouth go dry. Yet he stepped forward and bowed with open palms, the way he had learned in study. "Great one," he said, keeping his tone gentle. "This is a human farewell. The ambassador wrote his wishes. We try to honor them." "Paper drifts," the dragon replied. "Blood remains." Arbiter Leora lifted her slate, projecting quiet text into the air. "With contested claims on a diplomat," she said, "we must call an emergency tribunal. All parties will be heard. We can begin within the hour." The dragon's tail drew a slow line across the floor, a punctuation rather than a threat. "Your accords unravel at midnight," it said. "The hour is a luxury that peace may not afford." Medic Nadi lifted her scanner, then lowered it, fighting doubt and duty. General Rhea measured the space, counted Gwar, and counted fears. The child in row 7 clutched a parent's hand. The plaza felt balanced on a thin bridge. Any wrong step would break it. Chaplain Michael wanted to speak a prayer to cool tempers. He opened his mouth, but another sound cut across the moment. From the coffin came a knock. A small, certain, human knock. Then another. Then another. No one moved. Not a scale. Not a leaf of light. "Did you hear that?" Medic Nadi whispered, as if sound itself might startle the moment away. The scanner glowed a steady green, with no reason for hope. Yet hope pushed at the edges of the reading like a warm breeze under a door. Arbiter Leora's lips parted, words forgotten. General Rhea did not blink. She lifted one finger, a sign to wait, to breathe, to think. Dragon's great head tilted, one golden eye fixed on the brass. Even the lichen blooms on the aisle grew brighter, as if the entire plaza leaned in to listen. Chaplain Michael set his hand on the lid. The metal was cool under his skin. He spoke softly, almost a breath. "If there is life, we must open," he said. "If there is not, we must still open the path to truth." The dragon's voice came low. "We open together," it said. General Rhea nodded. "We open with witnesses," she added. "We open with care." The circle formed. Soldier, priest, lawyer, medic, dragon, and representatives of the gathered peoples. Hands found edges. Breath found rhythm. The hinges groaned like old trees in winter. The lid rose an inch. Air sighed from within, cool and strange. The plaza did not breathe. The lid lifted another inch. This was the hush before the roar. This was the moment every inspiring story remembers. The turn in a sci-fi story when peace hangs by a thread and courage chooses quiet action. The camera of the mind moved closer. The voice of the story asked the listener to lean in and not look away. And under the lens of 1,000 watching eyes, the coffin began to open. The first knock might have been imagination. The second could not be denied. By the third, the entire plaza froze. Silence gripped the air. Every mourner, every envoy, even the Dragon Lord himself, held still as if the station itself had forgotten how to breathe. Chaplain Michael pressed his palm against the bronze lid. The cool metal sent a shiver through him. He wanted to pray, but the words tangled in his throat. Medic Nadi leaned close, her scanner glowing in her hand. But no reading showed life. Her voice was small. "It isn't possible," she whispered. "It can't be." The delegates began to stir. The prismatic wardens from the glass belts stepped forward, their crystalline bodies scattering shards of rainbow light across the marble floor. Their leader raised a clear hand that shone with inner blue fire. "The body is collateral," they declared. "Under the banking accords, the debt remains. Do not open it." From the opposite aisle came a low, vibrating chorus. The Hive delegation stepped forward, their antenna trembling with agitation. "Nutrient law precedes all," they said, many voices layered together. "He consumed our royal gift. His essence must be returned to the brood. Debts of protein outweigh debts of coin. The dragon lowered his massive head. Cadris Emberfell's golden eyes burned like molten suns. None of your ledgers, none of your jars, can outweigh a bond written at the mouth of a mountain, he said. His words rolled over the crowd like stone shifting deep underground. His body is ours by fire and vow. Arbiter Leora Grey held her ground, her small frame steady in the circle of giants. She lifted her legal slate, its letters glowing in the hush. Contested claims on a diplomat require an emergency tribunal, she announced. We must convene within the hour. All parties will be heard. General Rhea Colden's voice cut in, sharp as iron. The accords expire at midnight. We cannot spend hours locked in law while peace unravels around us. One wrong move here could ignite 17 wars. The air thickened with fear and anger. The tidefarers shifted in their brine suits, the liquid within rippling with unease. The lichen blossoms along the aisle pulsed brighter, sensing tension. The hive chorus buzzed. The warden's light sharpened, and the dragon's tail traced slow arcs across the marble, leaving lines like drawn scars. And then came another sound. From the coffin, a steady knock. Deliberate, alive. The plaza gasped as one. The hive chorus fell silent. The prismatic wardens dimmed their glow. Even the dragon stilled, nostrils releasing only the faintest curl of steam. Medic Naughty clutched her scanner tighter, her eyes wide. It's inside, she breathed. Something is inside. Chaplain Michael steadied himself. His heart pounded, but his voice found clarity. We must open it, he said. If there is life, we cannot turn away. ... We open together, General Rhea commanded. Not one alone, not one faction, witnesses from all sides. They formed a circle around the coffin. The chaplain, the general, the arbiter, the medic, and representatives from the dragon, the wardens, and the hive. Each placed a hand, claw, or shimmering limb upon the lid. The moment was heavy with history. The plaza held its breath. On 3, General Rhea said firmly. 1, 2, 3. The hinges groaned like old trees breaking in a storm. The lid lifted just an inch. A cold breath of air escaped. The lichen blossoms flared, casting ghostly light across the faces bent above. They raised it higher, enough for the gathered to see. A face looked back, eyes fluttered open, dazed but alive. The ambassador, Jonas Meridian, blinked at the circle of leaders. His hair stood wild, his suit wrinkled. His lips moved, and a scratchy voice escaped. Does anyone have water? He croaked. Also, I think this coffin is not refundable. For a heartbeat, silence swallowed the plaza. Then the meaning struck. The man who had been mourned, the man whose body had sparked threats of war, sat up breathing before them. The dragon's great head tilted, golden eyes narrowing in astonishment. The hive chorus swayed, their many voices trembling without words. The prismatic wardens flickered through a dozen colors of disbelief. General Rhea's hand hovered near her blade, but did not draw it. Chaplain Mikkel dropped to his knees, half in prayer, half in shock. Jonas coughed, rubbed his temples, and looked at the crowd. What did I miss? He asked softly. Why does everyone look like they've seen a ghost? The plaza did not answer. It could only listen. This was no ghost. This was a man returned from death, and his living breath cracked open every claim, every contract, and every threat. The coffin was no longer a symbol of grief. It had become the center of a story that would test truth, loyalty, ... and the very weight of peace itself. This was the moment when the cracks widened, and nothing would be the same again. Jonas Meridian sat on the edge of the coffin, his face pale, but his eyes alive with a spark that no one expected to see again. The plaza was still frozen in disbelief. Mourners stared as if time itself had broken. The dragon lowered its head, golden eyes fixed on the man who had returned. Even the tidefarers inside their water suits pressed forward, the liquid swirling in agitation. Chaplain Michael knelt close, his voice a whisper. "Ambassador, we thought you were gone. I gave the rights. I read your words. How is this possible?" Jonas coughed into his hand, his tone half apology, half humor. "Deep stasis," he said softly. "A lesson I learned from monks who live around a frozen star. It slows the heartbeat to nothing, hides the breath. I needed to disappear for a while." Gasps spread through the plaza. Arbiter Leora Gray stepped forward. "But," legal slate glowing faint blue in her hands. "You staged your own death," she said. "Do you know what you risked? 17 species nearly tore this hall apart for your body." "Exactly," Jonas answered, his voice steady now. "Because someone here wanted that to happen. Someone in this crowd has been feeding secrets to enemies. I could not accuse without proof. The only way to expose them was to remove myself and see who reached too far, too fast." The dragon's nostrils flared, releasing a warm cloud of steam. Cadris Emberfell's voice rolled like thunder. "You mean I left my mountain flame for a trick? You let me fly across the stars for a false coffin?" Jonas looked at the dragon without fear. "You came because you cared," he said, "and that proves your bond to me was real. It also proves you were not the one manipulating this funeral." The prismatic wardens flared with sharp color, their leader's crystalline form shining with anger. "Your death paused no debt," they said. "Our collective still demands repayment. Interest has doubled since your so-called silence." Jonas shook his head. "I wrote those contracts myself," he said. "The debt is suspended at the moment of death, and so it was suspended. If you wish, we can draft a new schedule, tied to the trade shipments already prepared. I did not forget my promises." The hive chorus clicked their mandibles in agitation, their robes shimmering with uneasy light. "You consumed our sacred gift," they insisted. "By hive law, you must return your essence. That bond is older than your ledgers and your human papers." Jonas leaned forward, voice calm but firm. "You are right, and I will not break faith with your brood. But you gain more from me alive than gone. I can negotiate new rights for your farms, secure your harvests, and send provisions that honor dignity. You will lose everything if you insist on a corpse. But together we can build more than law alone." The hive chorus paused. Their tones shifted from anger to a low hum of thought. General Rhea Colden, silent until now, stepped closer, her gray eyes locked on Jonas. "You said there is a traitor," she said. "Who? Name them, so we can act before midnight." The plaza stiffened again. The prismatic leader bristled. The hive chorus stirred, and the dragon's talons scraped stone. Suspicion hung over every corner. But Jonas was not looking at the great powers. His eyes scanned the rows of aides, clerks, and staff who lined the outer walls. Finally, his gaze stopped on a young protocol officer named Baron Vale. Baron clutched a slim case to his chest, his shoes pointed toward the exit. Sweat traced down his temple. "Baron," Jonas said softly, "bring me that case." The crowd turned. Baron forced a smile, late and unsteady. He walked forward, holding out the case, but his fingers clung too tightly, refusing to let go when Jonas grasped it. The chaplain noticed the trembling. Arbiter Leora noticed the faint glint of tracer ink on the hinges. Medic Natty scanned the case, her device humming with confirmation. "This seal was broken and resealed," she said. "The ink proves tampering. These are diplomatic files. You had no right to touch them." The prismatic leader flared a furious red. "Those are our lean documents. They were stolen." The hive chorus buzzed, their antenna twitching. Our claim was altered. The language was forged. Jonas kept his gaze on Baron. "You set all of this in motion," he said, voice firm but not cruel. "You planted 3 claims, each designed to ignite chaos. You wanted the dragon furious, the hive desperate, the wardens greedy, and you wanted the accords to collapse." Baron's lips parted, words caught behind shame. Finally, he whispered, "They promised to erase the debts my family carried. I told myself it was only paper. I never thought it would bring this." Chaplain Michael touched his sleeve gently. "Most harm begins with someone saying they never thought it would go this far," he said. Baron lowered his head. "I am sorry," he said. General Rhea stepped forward. "Then you will answer before the council. No shouts, no spectacle, just truth written down." Cadrus rumbled deep in his chest, neither anger nor laughter, but something in between. The hive chorus eased their robes, their tones softening. The prismatic wardens dimmed to calm blue. Jonas closed the case and set it aside. "We still have one task," he said. "Before midnight, we must renew the truce, this time with all truths laid bare." The plaza seemed to exhale as one. Suspicion remained, but so did the fragile thread of hope. The ambassador had returned, the spy had been found, and the chance for peace flickered alive once more. This was the moment when death became life again. This was the moment when a story that could have ended in ruin chose to move forward. The plaza was hushed, though the air still carried the weight of shock. Baron Vale, the young officer, had been unmasked. His confession lingered like smoke, heavy and unavoidable. Guards moved quietly, guiding him away without chains. No one shouted. No one jeered. Silence was the only punishment the crowd could bear for now. The truth had been spoken, and it had changed everything. Jonas Meridian stood tall beside the bronze coffin, his suit still wrinkled from his false death. He brushed dust from his sleeve, his eyes scanning the faces of every species gathered. He could feel their doubt, their fear, and their fragile hope. The accords were trembling on the edge of collapse, but collapse was not inevitable. Chaplain Michael placed a hand on the coffin lid. "We have lived through storms," he said softly, his voice carrying across the plaza. "We can live through this, but only if we choose it." His words were simple, but they held the kind of truth that cut deeper than law. Arbiter Leora Gray stepped forward, her slate tucked away. She knew statutes could not mend this moment. "What will hold us together is not a contract," she said, her voice calm and precise. "It is what we are willing to promise in front of each other. Promises are heavier when spoken aloud." The dragon shifted, folding its massive wings. Cadrus Emberfell lowered his head, golden eyes glowing in the light of the cathedral lamps. "Our flames do not bend for words on paper," he rumbled. "But we lend fire to oaths spoken with courage. If you wish peace, then let us burn it into memory." General Rhea Colden looked at Jonas. "Time is short," she reminded him. "The accords expire at midnight. We must renew them now or watch 17 worlds drift into war." Jonas nodded. "Then let us not speak only of paper or law. Let us speak of living flame." He turned to Cadrus. "Will you share your sacred fire with us here, on neutral ground, as a sign that peace is more than ink?" The dragon considered. His breath rose in small clouds, curling upward like smoke from a mountain cave. At last he answered. "A hearth is only a mountain made small," he said. "Yes, I will bring the flame." The plaza stirred with cautious relief. Engineers fetched a brazier, and with a careful exhale, Cadrus breathed a tongue of fire into its heart. The flame burned steady, bright with orange and blue. It cast a glow over every face, human and otherwise. It was not just fire. It was a promise waiting to be spoken. Jonas faced the crowd. "This coffin no longer carries death," he said. "Let it carry our living vows. Each of us will place inside it a written promise, something we will do tomorrow to protect what we built today. Then we seal it, not with nails, but with trust. In 1 year, we open it, and the world will see what we kept." The idea spread quickly, like sparks leaping from wood. The prismatic wardens agreed first, pledging to ease their claim in exchange for steady tea. Their leader touched the brazier's rim, sending a pure tone ringing into the night. The hive chorus hummed in agreement, their tones lifting as they accepted new food rights and pledged to share their harvests. The tidefarers promised fresh water roots, their brine suits swirling like miniature seas. One by one, papers were written, folded, and placed into the coffin. Some were formal declarations. Others were simple notes. A child slipped in a scrap of paper that read, "Please be kind tomorrow." The coffin, once a symbol of division, grew heavy with hope. Chaplain Michael whispered a blessing that named no god but honored them all. Arbiter Leora recorded the act in law but did so with a smile. General Rhea stood guard, though her shoulders finally eased. Jonas and Cadris stood side by side before the flame. Jonas spoke first. "By warmth we live, by warmth we mend. Tonight we choose patience over anger, words over weapons." The dragon followed, his voice deep as stone. "By ember we remember. By fire we begin again. We lend flame to this oath, and we guard it as we guard our kin." The plaza answered with silence, not empty, but full. It was the kind of silence that holds respect, the kind that lets words take root. As the bells of the solace ring struck midnight, the accords did not end. Instead, they transformed. They became more than treaties, more than signatures. They became a living truce, carried by fire, sealed by promises, and guarded by hope. When the crowd finally dispersed, the brazier still burned, and the coffin still waited with its collection of vows. Jonas stood with Chaplain Michael and Cadris, watching the flame. "We may have saved this night," he said quietly, "but tomorrow will test us again." "Tomorrow always does," the chaplain replied. The dragon's eyes glowed in the firelight. "Then tomorrow we burn brighter." And for the first time in hours, laughter drifted across the plaza, not loud, but real. Peace was fragile, but it was alive, and that was enough to carry into the dawn.